It was November 4th, 2025, at Louisville International Airport in Kentucky. The city was waking up to a routine Tuesday morning. Commuters filling highways and workers arriving at offices. Few realized that within minutes, a tragedy would unfold in the skies above them. UPS Flight 2976, a cargo plane bound for Hawaii, prepared for takeoff in the company's global aviation hub. For UPS, Louisville was a heartbeat of operations. Thousands of flights moved in and out each week, carrying packages across the world. The crew of Flight 2976 expected nothing unusual. Their job was routine: load, lift, and deliver. At 9:07 a.m., the aircraft accelerated down the runway. Witnesses described the roar of engines as normal, but seconds after liftoff, the plane failed to gain altitude. Instead of climbing, it veered dangerously low over nearby businesses. At 9:09 a.m., the unthinkable happened. The plane crashed into a commercial area just beyond the airport perimeter. The impact was catastrophic. Flames erupted instantly, consuming buildings and vehicles. Thick black smoke billowed into the sky, visible for miles. Emergency responders rushed to the scene, battling fires and searching for survivors. The wreckage was chaotic: twisted metal, burning debris, and shattered storefronts. Families who had been working inside nearby businesses were suddenly caught in a disaster they could never have anticipated. Initial reports confirmed 14 fatalities. Weeks later, another victim, Alan Rodriguez Colina, succumbed to his injuries, raising the death toll to 15. Among the dead were employees, customers, and residents who had simply been going about their day. Investigators from the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB, launched a full inquiry. Early findings pointed to possible mechanical failure and improper load distribution. Cargo planes, though designed for heavy loads, require precise balance. A shift in weight or technical malfunction can turn routine takeoff into disaster. For Louisville, the tragedy was deeply personal. UPS is one of the city's largest employers, and the crash struck at the heart of its identity. Families mourned loved ones lost in an instant. Survivors described the horror of flames engulfing buildings, the sound of explosions, and the chaos of trying to escape. National headlines carried the story: UPS cargo plane crash kills 15 in Louisville. Aviation experts debated safety standards for cargo flights operating in densely populated areas. Questions arose about whether stricter regulations could have prevented the disaster. In the aftermath, UPS pledged to review safety protocols, enhance load inspections, and cooperate fully with investigators. But for the families of the victims, reforms could not erase the pain. Memorials were held across the city, candles lit for those who had died while simply living their everyday lives. The crash became a stark reminder: aviation, though routine, carries risks that can turn ordinary mornings into scenes of devastation. For Louisville, November 4th, 2025, will forever be remembered as the day routine flight operations ended in tragedy. Every story you've heard tonight began with something familiar: shopping for holiday deals, celebrating a child's arrival, gathering for a wedding. None of the victims imagined that routine choices would place them at the center of tragedy. And that is the unsettling truth. Danger often hides in plain sight, waiting in the cracks of our daily lives. Crowds, celebrations, even the trees above us, each can carry risks we rarely consider. These cases remind us that safety is not guaranteed simply because an activity feels ordinary. Behind every headline is a family forever changed, a community forced to confront the fragility of normal life. The lesson is not to live in fear, but to live with awareness, to question what we take for granted, to recognize that prevention, vigilance, and responsibility matter, whether it's securing a load, maintaining public spaces, or controlling crowds. Because tragedy does not announce itself. It arrives in seconds, rewriting futures and leaving echoes that last for generations. This is a world of criminal mind tales, where routine meets risk, and where every story asks us to look closer at the lives we lead. Subscribe for more stories that reveal the hidden dangers in everyday life. It was November 28th, 2008, in Valley Stream, New York. The air was cold, The sky still dark, and thousands of shoppers gathered outside a Walmart superstore for the annual Black Friday sales. For many, this was a tradition, a chance to grab discounted electronics, toys, and household goods before the holiday season. But hidden within the excitement was a danger few recognized: the sheer force of crowd pressed against locked doors. Welcome to Criminal Mind Tales, where routine turns deadly. Subscribe now and hit the bell for gripping true crime stories you can't look away from. Among the employees working that morning was Dimitai Damore, a 34-year-old temporary worker hired to help manage the rush. He was known by co-workers as quiet and kind, someone who had never worked a Black Friday shift before. Damore stood near the entrance doors, expecting to guide customers inside once they opened. He carried no protective equipment, no training in crowd control, and no idea that the crowd outside had already swelled to over 2,000 people. By 4:45 a.m., the atmosphere outside had shifted. Witnesses later described the crowd as restless, chanting and pressing forward against the glass doors. The temporary barriers placed earlier in the night had been pushed aside. Shoppers desperate for deals on televisions and gaming consoles leaned against the doors, their weight creating a dangerous pressure. At 5:03 a.m., store employees unlocked the entrance. What followed was chaos. The doors shattered under the surge, and Damore was knocked to the ground. Witnesses described the sound as like a human stampede. Shoppers, focused only on reaching sale items, stepped over his body without realizing the danger. Security footage later showed dozens of customers rushing past as Damore lay on the floor. Several employees tried to reach him, but the density of the crowd made it impossible. Within minutes, he had suffered fatal asphyxiation and blunt force trauma. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but Damore had no detectable vital signs. He was pronounced dead shortly after. Four other employees were injured, including a pregnant woman who was hospitalized. The tragedy sparked national outrage. News outlets across the country carried headlines about the Black Friday Walmart death. Lawsuits were filed against Walmart, alleging negligence in crowd control. The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, later cited Walmart for failing to implement proper safety measures. In the aftermath, Walmart introduced new crowd management policies, including barricades, staggered entry, and additional staff training. But for Damore's family, the reforms came too late. His death became a symbol of how consumer culture and inadequate safety planning can turn a routine shopping day into a fatal disaster. It was September 5, 2020, in Yucaipa, California. A family gathered in a park for what was supposed to be a joyful celebration, a gender reveal party. Guests carried balloons, cameras, and snacks, unaware that a single device would ignite one of California's most destructive wildfires. The expectant parents had prepared a pyrotechnic smoke device to release colored powder. At 10:23 a.m., the device was triggered. Instead of a harmless puff of smoke, sparks flew into the dry grass. Within seconds, flames spread across the hillside. Witnesses described panic as guests tried to stomp out the fire, but the flames moved too quickly. The region was already experiencing extreme heat and drought, conditions that made the landscape highly flammable. The fire grew uncontrollably, consuming over 22,000 acres. Homes were destroyed, families displaced, and wildlife habitats obliterated. The blaze became known as the El Dorado Fire, one of the most infamous examples of how a seemingly innocent celebration could spark catastrophe. On September 17th, tragedy deepened when Charles Morton, a U.S. Forest Service firefighter, was killed while battling the blaze. Morton was a respected crew leader, known for his dedication and bravery. His death underscored the devastating consequences of the fire. Investigators later confirmed that the pyrotechnic device had been improperly used in a high-risk environment. The father of the unborn child pleaded guilty to involuntary manslaughter and was sentenced to prison. The case became a global headline, warning against dangerous stunts at family events. News outlets and safety organizations emphasized the risks of pyrotechnics, especially in drought-prone regions. The phrase gender reveal fire entered public consciousness as a cautionary tale. For Morton's family, the loss was immeasurable. His colleagues described him as a hero, who gave his life protecting others. The fire's legacy remains a reminder that joy should never come at the expense of safety. It was December 17th, 2016, at Penn Park in Whittier, California. Guests gathered beneath towering eucalyptus trees for a wedding reception, laughing, dancing, and taking photos. The atmosphere was filled with the smell of catered food. No one suspected that the very and fell without warning. The trunk crashed into the reception area, striking tables and guests. Witnesses described chaos as screams filled the air. Guests scrambled to pull survivors from beneath branches. One woman was killed instantly, and several others, including children, were critically injured. Emergency responders arrived quickly, but the scene was devastating. Tables were overturned, decorations crushed, and guests in shock. Investigators later revealed that the tree was diseased and poorly maintained. X can become unstable if not properly cared for. The city of Whittier faced lawsuits alleging management. For the families involved,